Okay, this one is for Jeff. The question is, the local food and organic food movement often seem like very elite movements. What can and should be done to impact food availability for people with less money?
Well, I think there is some aspect to this new food movement that is elitist, and I think that fits in really well with our culture, which has had all kinds of movements that are very elitist. I think we have to work hard to move it out of that realm only. I don't think growing your own food is elitist. I think there's a lot of opportunities to, I mean, I don't know, it depends on what you prioritize. So, you know, you can buy a box of cereal that's had a corporation put all the value added into it, or you can buy a little bit of grain and cook it yourself, and it costs less money. It's organic, it's better product, it's better for you. I don't know, do we want to spend the time to do it, or do we want to pay, you know, a chef to create a $100 meal for us? I mean, I think the choice is ours. Maybe some of the first presentations of this have looked elitist. I sort of say, so what? Let there be an elitist element to it. You know, let anybody do what they're doing, and take your choice. You know, vote with your dollars again if you want to be in that camp or in something else. Who asked the question? I'd love to address it directly and have it be more of a conversation.
I have a comment.
Yeah, please.
I just wanted to add one comment first, Janet, before you get to chime in. I think it's really interesting how many of you have gone to the Ypsilanti Farmers Market at Key Bank? Have you contrasted the prices there with the Ann Arbor Farmers Market? It's dramatically different. Dramatically different. So there's something going on that's making that farmer's market more affordable and appropriate for that community. So I just suggest that you know, there's some element of synergy with the location and the customer base.
I mean, one thing that a lot of people would point to is that the commercial food that's available in the market is subsidized, you know, that it's an unfair competition at this point, that if, you know, we've taken a system that used to just give loans to help farmers get over the rough spots on prices, and we've basically turned it into something like grow as much as you possibly can and dump it on the market at any price and we'll pay you the difference. And so, you know, when you're competing against, you know, food that's part of that system, I think it's going to be, you know, I think it has to kind of find its way into the market. I think that as it's a bigger market, there'll be more innovation in how to produce this food. I think you're right. I think there's some element of that right now, and I think it is a challenge to figure out how to get over it.
The question is, what is the connection between our war economy and our failing health system? Go.
Oh my God, you do that.
Our war economy and the failing health system. Well, obviously, if we didn't have such a heavy investment in the war economy, we'd have a lot more money to put into the healthcare system. And Barack Obama is getting hammered for a healthcare plan that might just possibly increase the deficit by a little bit in coming years. The same people who are hammering him for being fiscally reckless never spoke up when we were wildly throwing money at the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, incurring deficits infinitely greater than what is associated with any of the healthcare plans now being discussed in Congress. So I think the connection is that, fortunately, it is much easier for politicians to get away with spending money on the military in this country than it is for them to get away with putting money into the healthcare system. And until we can begin to turn around these warped priorities, which clearly respond to vested interests in the society who make a lot of money off of the military, we're not going to get very far.
So the next question is an environmental question. Can we create a genuine renewable energy municipal utility that supports all of the local economic initiatives?
Cities that have utilities are very fortunate because the rules have changed over the decades, and it's much harder now to establish your own utility. And it's something that I think the lobbyists for the power companies have spent a lot of time working on, making this a more difficult challenge. Because we've been looking at this issue now for a couple of years, trying to just calculate the legal and the staff time that would be involved in trying to create our own utility. It's not an idea that we've given up on, but it's an idea that we continue to work on. The good people of the Energy Commission, we've been talking about this again for a long time, and it's not easy. The state could make some changes that would facilitate that, and I think that's where the focus needs to be, is in Lansing, to make some changes that would facilitate and make it easier. But basically in Michigan, when we look at the power grid and the way it is set up, the utilities are Wall Street traded companies, and yet when they do capital improvements, those improvements are paid for by the rate base, and that's us. It's also set up that the more money they make, the more power they sell, the more money they make. And so somehow we need to figure out how to change that in our state to install a conservation ethic into the programs themselves, into the way that they do business. It has been a very long time coming, but they are finally rolling out things like net metering, although it's slow and it's hard to get one. That would allow you to produce your own energy and get paid back like they do in 16 or 17 other states. So we have a long ways to go. And again, creating your own utility is just one of those things that has become very difficult in the law these days.
Okay, so next question is for Lisa. Is there a model, or is Transition Towns developing a model of matching the needs of community members, especially those affected most by the economic crisis, with those skills that can be taught through Transition Towns?
We're still creating the model. Transition Towns is a relatively new movement. There are 26 official transition towns in the United States right now. Ann Arbor is an official one. So what we're working on right now is simply spreading awareness, is raising awareness of what transition is and what we'll need to do. So we're not quite at the actually doing things stage, because what we found is that there are a lot of people doing wonderful things in our region, and we don't need to recreate the wheel. What we need to step back and look at how do we as a community create a vision for where we want to go, and how do we get groups that often work in silos working together to look at the intersection between health and food, and to look at how do we as a community do things that address the needs and the skills of people who have fewer resources, and build our community resilience and community strength, and strengthen existing nonprofits and existing initiatives without recreating a new one.